Most people who are successful or competitive or entrepreneurs, most people are chasing that success because they have married their self-worth with achievement. And I was the same.
Yeah.
And so right there.
Me too.
And so this is, by the way, evidence that you have a problem with self-rejection and with self-worth and with self-criticism, because you believe you are only worthy of love and you are only worthy of support if you have achieved the thing.
So someone's looking at you and thinking, man, I wish I was Mel Robbins, right? We'll talk about jealousy if we get to it later, but they might be jealous of you in a nice way. They might think, man, I wish I had a viral TED Talk like Mel. I wish I had multiple international bestsellers.
Great, write them.
Right?
Great, apply for one.
Yeah.
You can do it. If I can freaking do it, you can do it.
But they might also be thinking, well, that is success. You've had that even though you were racked with these problems on the inside.
Yeah.
And they may think, you know what, I'll take that. I'll take that success. And I think this comes to this wider societal point, which is we confuse sometimes success with happiness.
When you anchor your happiness to doing things, it's always out of your control. When you anchor success to the crap you achieve, it is always a moving target.
Yeah.
And so, it's a really hard concept to wrap your brain around, because first of all, there's the research that shows, at least in Western countries, that, there's the baseline with money. 75 grand is the baseline, that when somebody makes 75 grand or more, there's this happiness thing that I can't remember how the exact study goes, but it makes a lot of sense, because as somebody who could not pay groceries with 3 kids, as somebody who had liens on her house, as somebody who was getting the bankruptcy letters in the mail, as somebody who was unemployed during this whole thing, and whose husband was bouncing the payroll checks and was running from one restaurant to the other to hide from the collectors that were showing up. I know what it's like to live with the constant, relentless pressure that comes from having no money.
Yeah.
And until you can get yourself to a state where you can take a deep breath and you can pay the bill, and you can buy some groceries, and you can put some gas in the car, and the phone rings and it's not a collector, you are going to live a stressed out life because your basic needs are under threat.
Yeah.
And that is a horrendously triggering thing to live through. And we lived through it for several years. It was like that.
Yeah.
And so, there is a certain level of economic stability that has a direct impact on your happiness, on your safety as a person, and your ability to experience less stress. So I just wanted to be, responsible about that, because I've freaking lived it. And, but I do think that, look, I use the 5-second rule. I certainly have found my calling. I love building stuff. I'm incredible as a businesswoman. I love the game of making money. I love being smart in deal making. I love content syndication. I'm super excited for NFTs and for how blockchain is going to change the role of being a creator. And so there's a part of this that's a real expression for me in terms of building a business. Yeah. And the 5-second rule helped me take action. And the 5-second rule made me very productive. And the 5-second rule had me go, no, I don't want to do a talk show. No, I don't want to do a talk show. No, I do not want to do a talk show. Why are we still talking? And this is interesting. When you say no, people want you more. I wish I knew that a long time ago. But so I, for sure, use the 5-second rule to push myself to take the actions that have made me wildly successful. But that doesn't change the fact that I would look in the mirror and still see a person that I didn't like. And that as soon as the 5-second rule book came out, like I'll give you an example. So I write the High 5 Habit book. I'm practicing these tools, and I am also human. So when we get word 2 weeks before the book comes out that the big box stores like Target and Walmart in the United States are passing on my book because I'm not a known author, I get triggered. I punch the wall. I pour a gin martini, light up a joint. I call a bunch of friends and bitch up a storm. I am literally reliving being left out at a sleepover in middle school. I've got this gigantic, ridiculous story that, it's, I'm always left out. I'm never part of the group. Like there's this group of like real authors that are all friends that all I like have the whole thing. I'm human.
Put the record out, just press play.
Yes, exactly. I tend to be like angry, depressed kind of person, like breaking stuff. And then I wake up in the morning and I drag myself into the bathroom and I look at myself in the mirror and I have compassion. I'm like, you're right, that sucks. You are a known author. You deserve to have your work be in places where people can find it. It doesn't feel fair. And you know what? You're going to be okay. And so the high five becomes this, it's like a life jacket in the waves of life that keeps you above these waves so that they knock you over, they tumble you around, but then you climb back up, you reassure yourself. And I have this thing that is embodied in the high five. So the high five is also a wildly realistic, optimistic mindset. So part of what I am constantly doing, and I do this as a mother too. So we have a 23-year-old, a 21-year-old, and a 16-year-old. And every day in everybody's life, there is stuff that happens that sucks. There are friends that go out to lunch that don't invite you. There are people that tell you no. There are schools you don't get into. There are apartments that somebody else gets. There's boyfriends and girlfriends that break up with you. There are people that have cooler clothes and nicer cars and parents who throw the parties. And, there's always going to be something that makes you feel like life is out to get you. Things aren't fair. People don't like you. It's just like a tweak, right? It's triggering your insecurity. And I have this saying that I developed that, again, it embodies this high five, which for me, also having run a marathon, the only reason why I made it across that finish line is because every stranger's high five said, I believe you can keep going. That's what the high five said to me. I see you, Mel. I see that you're limping. Keep going, girl. And so my mindset, whenever I'm working for something and I don't get it, and I feel the sting of rejection or disappointment, I always say to myself, and I say this to my kids on repeat too, I say, look, when you work hard, you're going to be rewarded. You have to believe that this moment is preparing you for something better, that you didn't get this thing because something better is coming. And, so there have been a couple of those. Like, for example, the High Five Habit audiobook is unreal. I mean, I record it. It is the #1 selling audiobook on all of Audible ever since it's been out in terms of the number of downloads in 1 month. It's just destroying it. And I know you don't like that word, but it is destroying audiobook. It has been reported in the AP. It has been reported in all these places. Wow. It is in the charts, #1. And we are destroying it on the Amazon charts because people are reading it and loving it and sharing it. And I freaking love it because it tells me that the tool is spreading. Yeah. Because my books, like your books, are just vehicles for ideas to get out. So then people can talk about them. And obviously, I put all this stuff online for free anyway. So if you can't afford the book, you're listening to this podcast. Yeah. You're going to get. But so the New York Times puts out a monthly audiobook list. I self-published the audiobook. And in the back of my mind, I was saying, don't get your hopes up, Mel. Don't get your hopes up. You're not a publisher. You're a self-published author. They're very fancy over there. And so the audiobook list came out for the month of October. I clearly destroyed it. I'm clearly the audiobook. We don't even make it. A complete and utter intentional snub. That was another night where I punched a wall and drank a couple martinis and lit up a joint and called a bunch of friends and felt really sorry for myself. And the next morning, I literally high-fived myself in the mirror. It took about 4 mornings of high-fiving myself to get over that sting because it felt personal. But I kept saying, something better's coming, something better's coming. Do you know, I figured out the better thing that's coming. Well, first of all, actual sales are better than a list. So let's just get that straight. But I'm human. You know, we all want to be recognized. I was in the New York Times crossword puzzle today.
Today?
Yes. Isn't that not crazy?
For the high five.
It is the coolest thing.
That's cooler than being a New York Times bestseller, I reckon.
Don't you think?
Yeah, I think it is. It's a smaller club.
I'm literally getting off the train and my text messages are blowing up from mates from the United States. And they've screenshot this and it says literally a 3-word down on the New York Times. And it said, motivational speaker, Robbins. And it was me.
Oh.
And you know what it was that made me so just blown away is that I underestimate the fact that people know who I am. I think that I am a person who has really screwed up a lot. And for a very long time, I have lived inside a body that was racked with anxiety and fight or flight and doubt and judgment. And it has been really hard to live in this body. Yes, I've been high functioning. Yes, I have still gotten okay grades. I've gone to great schools. I've had friends. I've been married for 25 years, but it has been a real bitch to live with this much unedgedness, this much stress, this much self-imposed condemnation, this constant, relentless drumbeat of what's wrong and someone's mad at me and I've screwed up again and just constantly feeling like nobody likes me and I can never do it right and it's all never going to work. And just this grinding feeling that when I finally started to attack the anxiety and understand it, when I finally started dealing with the childhood trauma that created a dysregulated nervous system in the first place, when I finally understood what was going on and came face to face with the woman in the mirror, and I started getting help and finding a new way, because I didn't want to continue living a life where I felt that stressed out and that anxious and that worried, and where the constant just noise in my head was negative. Now, through the 5-second rule, through EMDR and psychedelic guided therapy, through traditional talk therapy, through the high five habit and practicing that since April of 2020, I have a totally different experience of being alive.
If you enjoyed that clip, here's another powerful clip that I think you are really going to enjoy.
How we breathe absolutely affects us. It even affects the density of our bones. It affects us down to the subatomic level with electrons. So to think that how we breathe does not matter is not based in any real science.